Welcome back. Now, it has been a week of scandal after scandal, from the NYS rewarding tenders to air suppliers to the National Cereals and Produce Board dealing with undeserving brokers. The country is literally bleeding. And now all eyes on President Uhuru Kenyatta to crack the whip and salvage the already struggling economy. Okay, so welcome to Week in Review. And to help us digest this scandalous week, I have Honorable Dindi Nyoro, who is the Member of Parliament for Kaharu constituency, and Dr. Duncan Ojuang, who is a lawyer. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you so much for your time. Let us begin with this whole issue. President Uhuru Kenyatta still hasn't come out to say anything about the NYS or the maize graft. His silence, and I'll start with you, Mr. Nyoro, as you're a Member of Parliament and also still part of PAC. Yeah. His silence speaks volume. As also leader of Jubilee, this still says a lot, keeping in mind that on top of the maize graft, personalities under it are Jubilee members of Parliament.
Thank you very much for having us this morning. I have to start by saying that words are not enough, especially in the fight against the graft, because we have seen a lot of talk previously, but we haven't seen a lot of results. But currently, we are seeing more action and less talk from the president. And I'm saying that because for the first time in the Kenyan history, we are seeing the fight against corruption and a nothing of scandals coming from the government side. From NYS to NCPB, whistleblowers never came from within or without. They came from government itself, government institutions. Like from NYS, the story came out on media, but the people who actually broke it to media and who had initiated the investigations is NIS and, of course, DCI. Those are government entities. And again, looking a bit backwards a little, you have to appreciate the steps taken by our president. We have seen changes at DPP. We have seen change at DCI. And I'm sure we'll see more changes within the institutions that fight corruption in Kenya. That is the first step in the right direction. And I can tell you this for free. What people will see, they have never seen before.
You think so? You think that
I am certain.
You think President Uhuru Kenyatta will now be serious in cracking the whip? I mean, fine, we've made those changes in those three bodies, but that's not enough. If you look at the changes in the fight towards corruption and the numbers of scandals that are there, it just doesn't add up in terms of action and talk. But
we have to appreciate that we are in a very different dispensation. Very different dispensation in this way, that we have a president. But the president is always gagged. The president has always tied by the same constitution that we have. Therefore, we have to decide as Kenyans. And that is actually what I am aiming at, even as a Member of Parliament. The only person who can decisively fight with graft in this country is nothing lesser than the presidency. And I'm saying that because the fight against corruption is fight against very mighty and high people. And these are people who are oiled in terms of resources. We have also seen a lot of abuse in our judiciary. And I'm saying that because we may keep on saying the president this and the president that, but forgetting we ourselves, we instituted these functionalities and these institutions to take away powers from the presidency so that we can institutionalize even the fight against corruption. But this is my point. We have so many entities fighting the same thing. In my opinion, and I'm sure you'll be doing that in Parliament, we need to consolidate the fight against corruption within one entity. Because nowadays, what do? You steal 1 billion. You only need to set aside a small fraction of it. Because you know, every person you go through in terms of institutions, you can always leave something behind to clear your name. Then you come out on the other end of the tunnel, having been declared as white as wool.
Speaking of institutions.
Yeah.
A lot of Kenyans, top of their mind is it time that we disband NYS? This is the second scandal, billion after billion. Is it time we just get rid of it? Because it's now just becoming a money eater.
I am a Member of Parliament, and I can tell you we have challenges even across our institutions, not even public. We also have theft even in our shopping centers. But you don't say that you're going to disband a shopping center because one kiosk or one shop was broken into. Maybe we need to rethink about NYS. Because there are very good many things that have come out of NYS, but there are also many bad things that have come out of NYS. The solution is not disbanding. The solution is strengthening and clearly demarcating the roles of NYS. But this is the point that I had previously. We have a problem with our judiciary. That is a fact. Because we cannot have, like, you remember the previous NYS scandal?
Yes.
A person comes before PAC, Parliamentary Accounts Committee.
Which
they
you're
confess,
part of.
I was not part of, but I'm part of now. Confesses before public on and on cameras that they carried money on in gunny bags. How do you tell me that that process goes through a judicial process, a
and
court
no one
process,
is convicted,
and then come out clean? That is mediocrity from our courts. That is mediocrity from our judiciary, and we have to look at it. And one thing that I keep saying is that we have to shorten the period of time on which a person goes through the judicial system, especially when you are carrying such heavy matters of corruption. Just the same way we have, for example, petitions from parliamentary or whichever other seats, political seats. We have a time limit on which they have to be adjudicated. We also have to have such kind of a thing so that we hasten these cases. And not just hasten. We need to see guys being imprisoned. We need to see guys having life sentences. I actually have a bill in Parliament suggesting and proposing that we actually need to put and to enlist some of these economic crimes as capital punishment.
Dr. Ojwang, I want to hear your thoughts even on the same issue. Judiciary is our biggest problem right now, and do you also think with NYS, instead of disbanding it, we just strengthen it?
I don't think judiciary, that's scapegoating, because the police are still under the executive. A judiciary is not an investigative arm. Judiciary goes with the evidence provided. When evidence and investigation are bungled, when evidence are brought so weak, when things that could help convict are because judiciary don't bring up their case. It's the state which goes to court and bring a case against the suspect. And as we have our legal system, we must have a system where there is the judge, the judge who remains neutral, because otherwise it will be witch hunting. There is the prosecutor who is interested in prosecuting, and there is the attorney for the other person whose job is simply to raise reasonable doubt so that we have a fair balance. So you can't expect a judge to move from being a judge and to prosecute. And the police and the investigators are under the executive. So it will be a big case of scapegoating to say that it is the judge's fault when somebody have over and over bring very weak cases, hide some evidence, refuse to bring some compelling witnesses, and then intentionally take somebody through prosecution in order to bring a weak case so that they know so it will be unfair.
And weak cases then reflect on the DPP's office, on the EACC, on the DCI,
on the police.
On the police. That means as a nation, we have all these bodies, but no one is being convicted. Kenyans will be damned if by the end of this week, with the NYS graft, with the maize graft, if the DPP, the DCI, the EACC still do not have someone to convict. What are they telling Kenyans at the end of the day?
I don't know what they're telling Kenyans. Right now, Kenyans are waiting for politicians to tell them this is intolerable. In our own mind, we can't look at it and decide this can't go on. We are waiting for the same politicians to come and tell us, guys, we can't take this. So Kenyans are also not victims here. This is a system where Kenyans have gone through trauma after trauma, and now they have coped, so that it is simply a matter of a talk show as we debate it. It's a matter of highlighting as we go through Madrid and wherever who is going to win, and it's simply a fire time story. So our challenge is that Kenyans have become and have accepted to be very helpless. We are still looking up to the same politicians to tell us, now Kenyans, we can't take this. But at the same time, I disagree with Mheshimiwa. The president must talk. If I was the president, the issue could have been, as he got heart attack from this, there is no money out there. then you hear somebody have taken the billions and billions. Now, when you talk, because president is not the investigative authority, and I agree with him, but the president is the one who steers this ship on morality. And therefore, this is a teachable moment or a lesson time to again call us on our values, to again rally us behind this investigative authority, and to again give us hope. So you can't say that the president is not investigating, he knows that.
Mheshimiwa, as a member of parliament and also part of now PAC, when you hear that the DCI as well as the DPP and the ESCC office have no one to convict, as a member of parliament and one of PAC, what does that tell Kenyans and where does that leave us?
First of all, the right position is that they don't have anyone to convict. The right position is that they can't convict. Their work is to look for evidence and to take it to through the judicial process. The solution of all this, in my opinion, lies in consolidating all these entities that fight against corruption under one roof. Because there is a lot of lapse. When there is ESCC, when there is DCI, when there is DPP, when there are normal police, there are so many entities, and those entities transfer from here to there. You may have one very good DPP, for example. You may have one very good DCI as an institution, but that cannot work in isolation of ESCC. You may have a very good and robust ESCC, but that cannot work in isolation. But again, this is the point of the matter. You may have all very perfect institutions, investigative. But remember, there is a bench sitting there of some individuals. And we have to unmask this. You know, Kenyans, when we talk about judges, because they wear those robes and whatever, we tend to think these are angels sitting there. This is normal Kenyans. And you know who Kenyans are. And therefore, we have to unmask, and if we really need a solution, and we remember again, we cannot have our cake and eat it. We cannot keep on saying our judiciary is very good because it's another election, because it did this, and therefore it is beyond reproach. And at the same time, we need some people convicted. At the same time, we need some people imprisoned. At the same time, we need some people punished. There is nothing that DCI will ever do in terms of sending anyone to jail other than taking those people through a judicial system. And therefore, if we mean business, we have to see all the loopholes. And in my opinion, as I said, let us put all these things under one roof. We have seen it in other countries.
Right.
Where you steal public resources. And in a matter of a day, you're already convicted, you're already hanged, and you are history. That is the only way we can teach people a lesson.
Right.
Because what happens in our country is a culture where, you know, if I steal 100 million, I am certain and sure
nothing will happen.
Of having a good life thereafter. Because only 10 million will cleanse me. Only 10 million will take me through the whole processes, and I'll come out fine.
Dr. John.
Yeah, no, I'm worried about this trend of legal positivism, thinking that law will fix our morality issues. If our morality is oozing, honorable member, this is not a job for lawyers. This is a job for pastors, priests, and sheikhs, and all of us, I'm saying. I'm saying that law have a very small element on the issue of corruption. If corruption is a moral issue, to what extent is our churches, are our politicians? Because we think if we have law, it will fix our morality. Even to obey law is a moral choice. So you can make laws, Mheshimiwa, there could be good laws, but I can decide I'm going to be moral by violating them. By choice. And so the call here is bigger than simply law fix them. No, it has to be a multi-pronged approach. And I have a suggestion, because I've lived in a country like United States where prosecutors are actually elected. Yes, and they are elected based on their conviction record. You know that this prosecutor, even when he was a police, he was no nonsense on drugs. The biggest challenge we have is drugs. If we elect him, we want to see him fight these drugs. And then he comes back again to election with his records. And people will know this so that as a prosecutor, he also have the will of the people and the mandate of the people, and he can also run his record not through a few people in a panel in an interview room that are checking CV, well-typed CV, but in practice. So we have to think out of the box, but I still feel the moment we lump this problem to a legal issue, we will go nowhere. Law cannot fix morality.
Now, the thing is, in his State of the Nation address, President Uhuru Kenyatta himself had addressed the issue of corruption and the challenge that Kenyans from all walks of life live collectively to fight graft. But as it appears, his tough talk is bearing no fruits.
The government and the private sector also must report fraud, protect whistleblowers without the slightest hesitation. Kenyans, on their part too, must report any crimes they may come across. And indeed, families must feel ashamed by one of their members becoming involved in corruption, and they must insist on upholding the name of their family. Teachers, as well as parents, must explicitly teach our children the value of honesty and the concept of honor.
Teach our children, yet look at the politicians that they look up to. Now, the thing is, let's talk the issue about the private sector and their challenge with fighting graft, because with the NYS, that money was laundered but was taken to a specific bank account behind the personality. Mheshimiwa, your thoughts on the fact that one person can open an account today, 60 million goes into that bank account, and someone can withdraw it tomorrow. Behind even that personality, there's a bank. Behind that NYS, there is a procurement officer. Your thoughts on that?
Before I go there, I have to agree with the president. Yeah, but that yes, our teachers, our parents, we have a role to play, as Dr. is saying. But again, that stops there. The role of the state is not to appeal to love and to inclination on what you want to do. The role of the state is to appeal to fear, to those people who want to sow or to harvest where they didn't sow. In the fight against corruption, where we are now as a country, you cannot keep appealing to people's inclination that I feel not like I'm corrupt. And the reason of saying this is because majority of Kenyans are good people. Majority of the people I represent, the normal common mwananchi in Kiharu or in any other part of this country, these are people who never take a bribe. These are people who actually never, hata akiona pesa ya mtu imeanguka chini hawezi chukua.
But the politicians
so the majority of
them.
people are good. But the small clique of thieves, the small clique of criminals cannot appeal to, they cannot be appealed in terms of patriotism. There has to be some punitive measures. And that is what we have to fix as a country. That is why we have these institutions that I have been talking about. But again, going to your question, I agree. This money came from wherever it went to a bank.
A government office and into a bank. Into
a bank. There are requirements in any bank currently. If I go to deposit any money past $10,000,
a million.
A million. I am supposed to declare. Again, if I receive money from any government entity, if I have done business with any government entity and I am paid and I need to access this money, the bank always asks for the documentation, the LPOs, etc. Probably, and I'm not speaking for the banks, probably all this was provided for them. The real question is where this money came from and who is the link in between.
And the procurement officer.
Especially the procurement officer. But remember this kind of money, and I said that yesterday in our park meeting. You cannot convince me there is some billions of money lost through NCPB. Then you want to blame some poor guy there in the stores. That can never happen. This person was not paid, was paid. The fella who paid is not the jamaa wa stores here ati akona pesa in a drawer that you deliver maize and they pay. This must be a syndicate. And that syndicate, I'm sure it goes even up higher than the store guy.
One person who has been mentioned in this latest NYS scandal is Anne Girita, who was paid 60 million Kenyan shillings. She did not tender. She doesn't have an office. She doesn't even know what she supplied. Yet, she was able to do business even without a PIN or VAT certificate. to do business with the government, not at your 500 bob, billions of Kenyan shillings.
The problem with our documentation, and I'm speaking real, because these are things that are happening in our country. When you ask for documentation, for example, you're a government official, you have some tenders advertised. Then you ask for all manner of things, AGPO, you ask for bank statement, you ask for NCA. The truth of the matter is that most of these documents are never confirmed. You can ask me for a PIN certificate. You don't need to generate from where PIN certificates are generated. They can always be found in River Road, so to say. So what I'm saying is that we also need to have some kind of, in my own thinking, even as Kenyans, we need to rethink even the way we do business, because we hide other companies. And these companies, the truth of the matter, are individuals. And these individuals can duplicate themselves across in different companies by the same individuals. Probably even the matter of companies law we need to rethink, but this is a discussion that we need from all quarters so that the fight against corruption will not be cosmetic.
I'm glad we have a lawyer.
Deep enough.
Dr. Ojong, then what's the way behind that?
No, you see, we concentrate on paperwork and paper trail. Those are, somebody can have all the papers.
Exactly.
But still, the issue is this government official who is agreeing to pay somebody 600 million without saying, wait a minute, let me check. So if we still have form over substance, because that's what I'm hearing, even sometime with our investigators, even sometime with our parliament, they are simply paper checkers. Somebody can have those papers.
Right.
The same corruption will allow you to even move and have a genuine documentation. So, I mean, at the level of parliament, it can't be about, let me see your papers. It should be beyond that, that you as an officer, you saw these papers, but there is what we expected, because chapter 6 and whatever, you are there as a custodian of the people, even with the right papers. It should be, well, I checked the papers and whatever. Because let me tell you, those who undertake corruption are not dumb. And they are not people of less means. If you wanted KRA clearance today, they will generate it within a minute. Because they have their networks. So as long as we think corruption is simply a legal issue or simply not clean paperwork issue, we are missing the point. The point is, with all those papers, after you saw all those papers, how could you, in your conscience, think that this woman supplied things of 60 million and paid? That is where corruption lies, not in the paperwork.
Now, let's move from the NYS. I want to hear your thoughts on the current grain scandal, something that has happened year in, year out. This is not the first time we're hearing it. And with this specific one, top of that is the fact that majority of them are Jubilee participants. Food is Mr. Kenyatta's one of his big four agendas. Intelligence report is on his desk and on the DCIs. Mheshimiwa, you think that President Uhuru Kenyatta, given that this is his last term, food is one of his biggest four agendas, he has a list of intelligence report. He can say these people need to step down. Action will be taken. You have confidence as a Jubilee member of parliament, PAC, and as a young leader in this nation, that intelligence report will not just pick dust.
I think the first thing you have to correct is the fact that it's a fallacy that there are some Jubilee people involved in the maize scandal. Because when you're a thief, you're not Jubilee or NASA. You're a thief on your own, because you have your own life even beyond the political formations. And therefore, these people are criminals, whichever political inclination they have. But I sat on that park yesterday and I listened. And part of the solution, probably that will take us a long haul, is that we cannot have NCPB. NCPB starts with farmers from the input side up to the production in terms of the product. So what was very amazing is that here there is a farmer who supposedly probably ought to have even come for fertilizer, because even fertilizer is subsidized by the same NCPB. Then a farmer shows up delivers 200,000 bags of maize. Is paid 640, in excess of 640 million, an individual, not even a company. So the question we were asking, even the officials who were there, and this is the question we must interrogate, is that where is this farm found in Kenya? And I agree with Daktari. We have to run to depart from this issue of makaratasi, because documentation is fine, now ripa yeye. And I'm saying that because here in Kenya, honestly speaking, tell me anywhere with a person farming maize in excess of 10,000 acres of land. Even government itself, its pilot project of Garana Kuraru, never envisioned to harvest that kind of produce in terms of amounts.
Right.
We need to have a database of all farmers in this country, so that even when you are giving fertilizer, you are not giving some broker at 1,500, then the same fella goes to sell some fertilizer to farmers at 3,000. That is, of course, stealing. But I have to say, because I can see a lot of talk, this person is involved, the other person is involved, I want to declare here, and you'll see in a matter of time, the president is very determined to dealing with these guys, to dealing with these criminals. And I am sure it is a matter of time, utaona mtu akikaa Kamete for life.
Okay.
Whatever their positions now, because there is nothing the president will ever implement if we still have this kind of runaway corruption.
Well, you've had the confidence of Mheshimiwa there. Before we close off this segment, very quickly, Dr. Ojwang, the 4,000 farmers who have been left with their maize, and this is something that happens year in, year out, legally, what's their next option for them?
Legally, they might not have much option because, and that's why the technicality. People are told, bring maize. I supplied maize. But beyond that, the reason we put people there, not robots, we think somebody reasons beyond just a machine. And we'll say, wait a minute, where did you get all this maize from? You see, a machine cannot do that. A paper checker cannot do that. But a human being, a reasoning human being, unless you are very daft, but even if you are daft, then we find you are not daft because, coincidentally, it is benefiting certain ways. So you are not foolish. You know what you are doing. And so for these farmers, see, the government is also losing here because the government supplemented their things. The government supported them in order to secure food for this country. And now that food is not being uptaken by the government after investing. And therefore, we are all losing because it's an investment that government have invested in these people.
All right, so we'll leave it on that note. Dr. Duncan Ojwang, who is a lawyer, and of course, Mheshimiwa Ndindi Njoro, who is the Member of Parliament for Kiharu.